Okay, everyone, let's get started. And we'll welcome others as they join. I hope everybody is doing fantastic and has had a good week and is feeling good to be in the month of Shvat, leaving the dark month of Tevis behind. Mitzvah Hashem, God willing, we'll see some light this month and only good things coming. Mitzvah Hashem. For everybody, blessings. Okay, so we're in the middle of this awesome Torah, and it's, like we said, it's deep and it's a little bit complex, and we're going through step by step. So instead of doing what I sometimes do, which is to go through a detailed review of all the steps, I'm just going to throw out a conceptual picture of the main sort of framework of what we're talking about. Which is what? Which is these sort of three existences of the holy on one side, Kedusha, let's say, Lashon HaKodesh, Hebrew language, Isha Chachama, the woman of wisdom, all the good stuff. And then on the other side, we have the languages of the 70 nations, and the language of the 70 nations, and the bonfire of evil, and the all-encompassing taivas niyuf, desire for lust, or lustful desire. And in the middle, we have the middle ground, which is something that's not inherently evil, and it's represented by the Lashon of Targum, the Aramaic. It's something that's in the middle. And the main thrust of everything that we were talking about is that the ultimate perfection of the holy is not just to dwell in the holy, but it's to go into that middle ground and elevate the things that need to be elevated from that middle ground, from that place of Targum and Aramaic, and the thing that joins between the mamutza, the medium between the realm of evil and the realm of good. Everybody with me? And so, on the good side, what do we have? Once again, Lashon HaKodesh, Isha Chachama, the woman of wisdom, the holy language, the woman of wisdom, and Shleimus in Tikkun Habris, also Shmiras Habris, in the sexual realm, holiness. And then on the bad side, we have the languages of the 70 nations, and we have the all-encompassing taivas niyuf, desire for lust, and the realm of evil, and which is represented by the three totally impure klipas. And in the middle, we have the Lashon Targum, the mamutza between the two. Okay, and remember, important point, Chevra, we have to go into that place in the middle realm and make purifications and make tikkunim and elevate them. We don't go into the evil and spend time in there, because that will pull us down, and there's nothing to be brought up from there. But we also don't just stay by ourselves in a temple somewhere and forget about the world. We got to go and be part of the world, and from that place elevate what we can elevate. Okay, so we're on page 146 in the black one, and it's letter Hey in the Hebrew, Torah Yud Tes 19 in the Likutei Moharan Chelik Aleph. Here we go. Okay. One more thing I have to add before we come into this is also corresponding to that middle ground of the Targum and the Aramaic was this concept of sleep. Remember this sleep. Because sleep was what Hashem cast onto Adam HaRishon before he separated out Chava. And remember, that's the other thing we forgot. Chava is Eve. Chava represents the Kedusha and the Lashon Kodesh and the Isha Chachama. And on the other side of negativity, it's the snake, right? So right before Hashem separated Chava, and Chava, once again, means holy speech and Kedusha from Adam HaRishon, first there had to be sleep. And sleep represents this place of memutza, of a medium between the two things, right? And that's why we also saw last time this amazing idea that that's why Yosef was a tzaddik, and he was able to find the good in those places and elevate it. So therefore, he was able to interpret dreams, because interpreting a dream is in that realm of night, which is the middle, where he was able to find the good part and pull it out, to find the part that made sense, to find the part that needed to be transmitted from that prophetic dream, right? Okay, amazing. Okay, now we're ready. Letter Hey. V'zeh b'chinas mikre laila. So this is going to sound like it only applies to men, really, this next little part. But let's just remember that conceptually, it applies to everybody. The concept. So let's hear, we're going to see now how this concept plays out in a few different circumstances and psukim. Okay? This is also an aspect of what we call a night emission. When a man has an emission, from the sexual organ in the nighttime, like mikre means by chance, means not on purpose, just something like happens when he's sleeping. Okay, sha'aruach sa'ara, hainu haruach shtus. So where does this come from? Where does it come from? This is, by the way, we might think that there's nothing wrong with this, because he's not doing it on purpose. When a man has such an emission, but really it's a very negative spiritual event. And if a man has such a thing, he has to go to the mikveh, and it's really it's not a positive thing. We don't just say, oh, he didn't mean it, it wasn't him. This means that something's going on. Okay? So this comes from, he says, sha'aruach sa'ara. That's the storm wind from the evil side, which is one of the names of the three totally tamei klipas, shalosh klipas tmeis. Hainu haruach shtus, which is also the ruach shtus, which is from that isha eshes ksilus, foolishness, the opposite of chachma. Hainu hashivim lashain, the 70 nations. So all that side of negative, what happens? That evil negative side, oile ayadei Targum. It comes up through the Targum, through that middle ground of the Aramaic language. Al yadei, through what? Tardema, through the sleep. Through that concept of sleep, which is that middle ground. Al yadei shena, through sleep. Vayonek, miloshen hakodesh. And now that it's in that realm, it draws out from the Lashon Kodesh, from the holy side. Mi Ruach HaKodesh, Mi Bris Kodesh, from the Holy Covenant. Right? So in other words, once again, we have these three existences. But what happens in such a situation is not only can someone who's on the good side, can a tzaddik go down into that middle ground and elevate the good, but so too we have to look out, because the evil can go into that middle ground and try and take energy from the holy side, right? And this is what's happening by Mikre Laila. This is why it happened. So you have a thing over here where it's an incidence of Tuma. It has to do with the Bris Kodesh, with the Taivas Niyuf, with lust, and it's happening at night. You see, it's attached to all of these things. It's attached to all of these things in this whole concept. So when such a thing happens, when a Mikre Laila happens, when this nighttime emission happens, the spiritual mechanics of what's going on are that the evil is going in to the middle ground and trying to take energy, suckle, yoinik, from the holiness. And that's why it happens in this way. Because someone who has shleimus lashon hakodesh, someone who is very high in the realm of holiness, and they've perfected the lashon hakodesh by elevating the good that's in the middle ground. Mekarer es chamimusoi b'lashon hakodesh. So maybe we just thought that perfect speech was just a nice thing. We saw before, and he's saying it again now, that having holy elevated speech cools off the taivas niyuf, cools off the lust. So when someone is using their language in a very negative way, especially in a lustful way, it builds everything up. It heats a person up, and they become more attached to this realm of sexual desire. But someone who really, really, really works on elevating their speech and elevating the way they speak, that causes their lust to be cooled down. So someone who has shleimus lashon kodesh, makaris shleimus lashon kodesh, he cools off his heat. V'chinas cham libi bekirbi. The pasuk says in Tehillim, cham libi bekirbi. My heart, like burned within me. Dibarti b'lishoini, and I spoke with my tongue. So this is what David HaMelech said in Tehillim. What did he mean? Shemakarer chamemusoi b'dibur shel lashon kodesh. His heart was boiling in it, was burning inside him. So what did he do? Dibarti b'lishoini. David HaMelech spoke, and what kind of speech did David HaMelech use? He was talking to Hashem. He wrote Tehillim while he was out by himself in the mountains in Eretz Yisrael. He was using his power of speech for the most holy possible thing. He was writing Tehillim in his Bailut with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. And that speech, Shemakar Chavimusoi b'dibur shel lashon hakodesh, that cooled off his desires, his sexual desire. V'chinas zois hapam etzem ma'atzami mikanshin iskara daitai bechava. So this is just like by Adam HaRishon in Gan Eden. So the whole backstory of what was going on in Gan Eden is that Adam HaRishon, this is you can see this in the Gemara in Yevamos. Adam HaRishon, before Chava was born, he had a very powerful sexual drive, and he was like boiling over, and he was looking at. Everybody knows the story. What they tell the children is that he was looking at all the animals. And Hashem got him to name all the animals, right? And then he found, well, wait a second. Where's my partner? Right? You have the cow has the bull has the cow, right? The mommy tiger has the daddy tiger. I don't know what they're called. Right? You got the bear, you got the buck and the doe with the deers, right? And so the kids learn and they say, oh, and then Adam HaRishon saw, where's my partner? He didn't have. So change the dial and make it an adult explanation. And you have that he had a tremendous, powerful, burning sexual desire. And everywhere he looked, he couldn't find his partner. Meaning he couldn't find who he was supposed to be with. That's what was going on. Until, what did he find? He said, Zois hapam, this time, etzem ma'atzami. This is bone of my bone. Flesh of my flesh. This is going to be part of me. The Gemara says, Mikan, from here we see, Sheniskara daitoi bechava, that he was calmed down. He was cooled off through Chava. That was his partner that would allow him to be cooled off in this realm. So why are we saying this over here? Because it's the same thing. What's Chava? Chava, as we said, is holy speech. That's what her name means. Holy speech. Just like David HaMelech cooled himself off with holy speech, so too Adam HaRishon cooled himself with Chava, who corresponds to, metaphorically, but also in reality, to holy speech. So we have this ability. This is a power that if we want to calm this aspect of ourselves, the lustful aspect of ourselves, the way to do it is to work on elevating our speech. Elevating our Hebrew language, prayers, and this and that, and also, like Rabbi Nosson brings, elevate the way in which we speak. Right? This is going to be the key to calming our burning hearts in this realm of lust. Right? Aval mi she'ein lo shleimus lashon kodesh, but someone who doesn't have shleimus, who doesn't have a completeness and a perfection in this realm of speech. Azai ruach sa'ara makar oisai. Now the ruach sa'ara, the windstorm, is what's going to cool him off. The windstorm from the evil side is going to cool him off. How? B'mikre laila b'shena. By having a nocturnal emission while he's sleeping. It's the same cooling off. It's the release of his lustful desires, but it's coming in the nighttime from the side of evil. Right? The tikkun is lashon kodesh, is beautiful speech to calm yourself, or the tikkun is to have a marriage partner where that action is holy. Right? But the evil side is a nighttime. In the night, the time of darkness is a nighttime emission. V'chinas asher korcha b'derech. Where else do we see the concept of cooling down being in the realm of total evil? By Amalek. The pasuk says by Amalek, asher korcha b'derech, that they korcha, it's the same lashon of mikre. They happened upon us on the way, is the way it's usually translated. But what everybody says, what all the holy Sfarim say, is that korcha b'derech means a lashon of karirus, of kar, of cold, of cooling off. They cooled off our desire, but the cooling off of Amalek is cooling off of our holy desire to Hashem, our holy desire for kedusha, for holiness. That's what Amalek cools us off with, right? So this aspect of mikre, of a chancing upon of Amalek and a chance nighttime emission, they're totally interconnected, right? It's the attack of evil to cool us off in an evil way. But derech, you see, is an aspect of lustful behavior also. Like the pasuk says in the Mishnah, Kain derech isha min ha'efes. The word derech isha min ha'efes, the way of a lustful woman. Sha'ruach sa'ara haylech derech Targum. So what happens is this windstorm of the shalosh klipas tameus, of evil, comes and comes through the Targum, through the middle ground of Aramaic, through the middle ground of sleep. Shehu b'chinas noiga. That's also corresponds to the klipa called noiga, which is the middle ground. Ve'yonik mina chashmal. And now it tries to draw from the holy spiritual energy of chashmal that we spoke about in the past. Right? So these are the two aspects. If someone is perfected in Lashon Kodesh, they are able to calm and cool down their drive for lust through these two ways. But if someone is not, if someone is using their language in a profane way, in a negative way, so that's going to allow those negative forces to come and attack them and cool off their lust in a nighttime emission type of way, or to attack them and draw energy from them, which we don't want. Are you ready with me? So we're working on our speech, right? We're going to work on our Lashon Kodesh. Make sure that we're speaking holy. Okay, so now let's move on to another example over here of how this works. Good, thumb up. All right. Elisha. Who knows the Navi Elisha? Elisha, the Navi, was the main student of Eliyahu Navi. Okay? Elisha haya yoresh me'Eliyahu ruach hakodesh. He inherited from Eliyahu Navi, Elijah the prophet, he inherited from him ruach hakodesh. So ruach hakodesh means a prophetic power, but in our context it also means this high-level, elevated speech. It's through this that he inherited, he received from Eliyahu Navi an absolute perfection in holy speech. Like the pasuk says, Eliyahu Navi asked him, what do you want from me? Well, before he was going to die, Eliyahu Navi asked from him, like, what can I give you? What kind of gift can I give you? And so he asked Eliyahu Navi, I want a double portion of your spiritual powers. And so he got it. He got this double portion. Give me 2 times your ruach on me. Pishnayim, hainu lashon hakodesh. So pishnayim is a hint to the word of lashon hakodesh, of holy speech. Kishnayim. So everybody remembers there's a halacha that we learned, an ancient Jewish practice, which is in the Shulchan Aruch today, until this day, and which we should all be practicing. Shnayim mikra ve'echad targum. That every week, every Jew is supposed to learn the parsha of the week 2 times in the Hebrew language and 1 time in the Aramaic translation. Okay? Now, practically speaking, by the way, if you don't know Hebrew or Aramaic, you should maybe read it in Hebrew and then read it in English. That'll be your translation. But as we said before, there's tremendous power in the Targum, the Aramaic translation, and there's secrets in the Aramaic translation. And so it's brought down in halacha that even if you don't know Aramaic so well, Even if that's not your language, you should still read the Aramaic because it's so powerful. But Shnayim Mikra, 2 times Mikra, that means the Hebrew, and 1 time Targum. Okay, so Shnayim 2 is referring to Lashon Kodesh, and 1 is referring to Targum. Everybody with me? By the way, just a quick interjection. If anybody is listening to me and saying, Rabbi, what are you trying to do to me? I can't read the whole Parsha 2 times in Hebrew and 1 time in Aramaic and then try to understand it in English. That's going to take me 4 hours a day to do. Okay, so once again, what do I always tell people? Everybody on your own level, whatever steps you're making personally, if that means you read, a few psukim, 1 aliyah in the Hebrew and then in English, maybe Rashi, whatever it is. Maybe you'll read some of the Torah and a commentary, maybe, on the Chumash. Everybody in their own way takes where the step they're at and works up, always growing, always trying to become stronger in my observance. So here's a particularly beautiful place to come stronger in Shnayim Mikra V'Echad Targum, which is Lashon Kodesh. Okay, anyway, that aside. Shnayim Mikra, 2 times Mikra, Shnayim, the number 2 is connected to the Lashon Kodesh, the Hebrew part of the Bible, of the Torah. So Pi Shnayim Haya Lashon Kodesh. So when he asked for him, he asked from Eliyahu Hanavi, give me Pi Shnayim, give me Pi, which means mouth, and 2, twice. What does 2 refer to? Hishnayim Mikra V'Echad Targum, says Rabbi Nachman. Ayedei Zeh Kesiv Bey, and through this it's written about him, Ish Kadosh Over Aleinu Tamid. It says about Elisha. It says in the Navi over there, this Ish Kadosh, a holy man, passes by here regularly. And what does the Gemara say? Why was he called a holy man? So there was a place where he used to stay, and they took care of him, this holy prophet Elisha, and they put out a bed for him and some other stuff, and a lamp and whatever. And she saw that there was never ever any stains in his mattress, in his bedding, meaning he was always pure. He was always pure. Shaloi rasa keri al sedinai. She never saw any emissions on his sheets, so she knew he was a holy person. Ki al yedei. So why was he a holy person? How did he get to live this, to be this holy person? Because he received from Eliyahu Hanavi the power of holy speech, of Lashon Kodesh. Ki al yedei shleimus Lashon Kodesh nitzolen mimikra laila, because it's through his perfection in Lashon Kodesh and holy speech that he was saved from a nocturnal emission. Ki al yedei shleimus Lashon Kodesh zoichin letikun habris, because it's through the perfection in the holy speech and Lashon Kodesh that we merit tikkun habris, purity in this realm of lust. When such a thing happens, once again, just so we're all on the same page over here, because people can think, what is nighttime emission? So what? Nighttime emission means that you're being attacked by evil forces in the middle of the night while you're sleeping, and you don't realize it, and they're working through you. It's not just something normal that happens to everybody. Okay, it happens, right? But this is behind the scenes, behind the Kabbalah curtain. There's tremendously powerful negative spiritual forces behind this happening, right? So the fact that Elisha was a person who didn't experience this at all was because he received this holy Lashon Kodesh from Eliyahu Hanavi, is what we're saying over here. And once again, the holy speech removes the heat of lust and causes, as we said, he was merited tikkun habris, to have perfection in the realm of the covenant. Ki ikar shleimus Lashon Kodesh hu al-yedei Targum, because the main perfection of Lashon Kodesh is through Targum, is through the Aramaic translation, shu bechinas Tardema u'sheina, which is sleep and slumber, as we said before. Through the fact that we're mevarer, we filter out, we clarify, we purify this aspect of the Targum, of the Aramaic, bechinas Tardema, which is also the nighttime, sleep time. That's how a person is saved from the Mikra Laila, from this happening in the nighttime. Okay, next we're going to see a pasuk and how this relates also to David HaMelech. So the pasuk says by David HaMelech, Rosh misibai amal svasemai yichasemai. So as for the head of those who surround me, let the mischief of their own tongues cover them. Yimoitu aleihem gechalim, let fiery coals descend upon them, said David HaMelech. Okay, Zeh shebikesh David. Says Rabbi Nachman, this is what David HaMelech longed for, asked for, Hashem. Rosh Mesibai Amal Sasema Yechasemu. Rosh Mesibai, that means the head of the head of those who surround me. Hu bechinas noiga al saviv, noiga loy saviv. Okay. Remember, we have the chashmal, which is kedusha, and then on the other side we have the shalosh klipas tameas, the three completely impure klipas, and in the middle we have noiga, which means a type of shining light, but that's the middle ground. And it says about that in the vision of Yecheskel the prophet, who explains all of the Kabbalistic structure. It calls it noiga leisaviv, that it was a noga surrounding it, a glow surrounding it, surrounding. So when this pasuk says, the David HaMelech said, the head of those that surround, it's referring to noiga leisaviv. It's referring to this aspect of noga, this middle ground. Shu roish hamasavavin esa kedusha. All of the klipas are surrounding the holiness. All of the husks, all of the shells of impurity and dirt are surrounding the holiness. The one that's right beside holiness, the one that's closest, innermost to the holiness, is this one called noga. And then after that is the impure ones. Right? It's like some of the Kabbalists explain it in the example of like an onion. Right? How an onion has layers upon layers. Right? So in the middle you have the holy part. Then surrounding that is the layer of noga, which is the middle ground. And then surrounding that is these other three evil klipas, right? You know how we're always saying this beautiful concept that our inside, deep down inside of ourselves, the real essence of us is our holiness, is our neshama, is our soul. And how we're always saying that doing tshuva doesn't mean I'm going somewhere else. Doesn't mean I'm here and I have to leave and go somewhere higher. That's not what it means. It means I have to remove those outer layers of negativity and dirt and get down to the light of my essence, right? So there's a direct correlation to what we're seeing over here, because these Kabbalistic concepts exist everywhere in the universe. Everything in the universe is made of 10 spheres, and everything has these layers upon layers of existence around them. So by us over here, the noiga is the first klipa that's surrounding. So it's the head of all of the surroundings. It's a kedusha that surround kedusha. So the mischief, let the mischief of their own tongues cover them. Meaning, please let the mischief and the evil should be covered up, should be gone, should be nullified. This is what David HaMelech asked. He asked Hashem, please make it be that for the noga surrounding me should through that noga, through that intermediary level, that klipa that's surrounding, that's in the middle, through that, all those other evil klipas should be knocked out. The mischief and the evil should be bottled, should be knocked out. And then what about the totally evil realm of the 70 nations? So the rest of the pasuk is Yimoitu aleihem gechalim. You should rain down upon them coals. Because they come from fire, they were created in fire, and fire will consume them. Hainu, bechinas noiga shu bechinas Targum. So this aspect of noiga, of that intermediary klipa, shu bechinas Targum, which corresponds to the Aramaic Targum, shetzrichim sheyisbar, which needs to be clarified and purified, and the good needs to be taken out, and the evil needs to be shut down. Sheyipol hara sheboy, that we smack down the evil that's inside there. V'atoiv sheboy yizbar v'yale, and the good that's inside there should be clarified and raised up. Via nichla b'toich kedusha, and now it'll become part of the holiness. Hainu b'lashon hakodesh, which is the holy language. Shezehu b'chinas shleimus lashon hakodesh. That is the aspect of the perfection of the holy language. Alidei lashon hatargum, through the Targum. V'shar ushar lashonis ha'amim, and the rest of the 70 nation languages. Shem b'chinas ragam, or which are totally evil. Tzrichim lechaloisam legamre. They have to be completely wiped out, knocked down. Bechinas yemoitu aleihem gechalim. Throw down onto them coals. V'zeh bechinas shal hoiva de'esha hayeredes be'erev Shabbos al roish haklipos. This is what it's referring to in the Zohar HaKadosh that we saw in the beginning. That on Friday afternoon, when there's this big burning bonfire of those 70 stars, what happens is a tremendous fire descends down onto the top of the klipos. That they shouldn't be able to draw from the holiness. Okay, now we're going to get into something very awesome here, and this is a good segue to it. Friday afternoon, there's a tremendous power. Shabbos is coming into existence, and there's a lot of holiness that's ready to flow into Shabbos. And so, as we said, at that time, the negative forces come because they want to take that holy power and use it for negativity. And so at that time is where we need to have this shalhuva de'esha, this flame of fire that comes down and hits those back and allows for the holiness to come in from the Yesod to the Malchus. Right? That happens Friday afternoon. Perush, ki be'erev Shabbos, on the eve of Shabbos, b'knisas Shabbos, right when Shabbos is coming in, nichlal noiga b'kedusha. What's happening there? Okay, Jewish ladies, you ready for this? So, what are you doing Friday afternoon when you're lighting your candles? You know, we don't light candles right at the moment that Shabbos comes in. You have to light them at least 18 minutes before. Right? Candle lighting is 18 minutes before sundown. Right? Did we ever... So, on the simple surface level, we light at that time in order to make sure that we don't make mistakes. 18 minutes we're lighting before, so if I'm a couple minutes off, it's not Shabbos. Right? But on a deeper level, do you see what's happening here? That time of Erev Shabbos represents this middle ground. It represents Targum. It represents this aspect of sleep. It represents this place that's in the middle, the klipas nega, the klipa that's closest to holiness. So the rest of the 6 days of the week correspond to the evil realm. Right, Erev Shabbos corresponds to this klipa of noga, and then Shabbos is the kedusha. So what do we have to do? What's our job? What are we seeing through this whole thing? Our job is to take from that middle ground the good from that place and raise it up and elevate it into the holiness. So that's why, ladies, it's so important to light candles early. Because you're bringing Shabbos in, you're taking a portion of the week. You're taking a portion of Friday and turning it into Shabbos. You're taking a portion of a day that's not holy, and you're turning it into Shabbos. When you light candles 18 minutes before Shabbos officially starts, it's Shabbos for you. You made it Shabbos. Right? As soon as you light the candles, you're done. You can't do any more malacha. It's Shabbos now. Amazing. You turn a mundane weekday into Shabbos through your mitzvah. And all of the holiness of Shabbos applies to that time. And all of the prohibitions of Shabbos apply to that time. Did you ever think about how unbelievable that is when you're lighting your candles? You turned not holy into holy by lighting your candles. You totally changed the status of time. You changed the status of time. Can you believe it? So what are you doing? You're taking that time, which is the middle ground, and you're saying, you know what? I need to pull out from here and take the good of that and elevate it up into the holiness of Shabbos. And so 18 minutes before Shabbos becomes Shabbos. By the way, you can light your candles up to the time of Plag HaMincha before Shabbos, which is usually around an hour, between an hour and 2 hours before Shabbos, before the official start of Shabbos. You can look into the times on the calendars. But what an unbelievable thing! You're changing the nature, the reality of time. It's totally amazing. And space, by the way. Okay, I gotta calm down. But this is what's happening on Shabbos. Shnichlal noiga bekedusha. Now that noiga, that middle ground, becomes part of kedusha. Vaz roitzim gam shara klipa es atameus legamre lalos el kedusha. So now what happens? All those other negative forces see what's happening, and they see that a portion of Friday is becoming holy, and there's tremendous power, and they want that power. The negative forces want to take that power. Va'az yored shalhuva de'eshal reisham. So what happens? A flaming fire comes down on top of their heads. V'noiflim lamata, and they fall and they're knocked down. Shezehu soid kavanas. So says Rabbi Nachman. Ready for this one? Another aspect of tremendous holiness of Friday afternoon. Shezeh soid kavanas rechitzas mayim chamin be'erev Shabbos. This is the secret of the intention, the kavanah, of washing oneself in hot water on Friday afternoon. Once again, everyone has a shower Friday afternoon before Shabbos starts. Okay, cleans himself or goes to the mikveh, whatever it is. And we think that it's a holy thing to do because we're cleaning ourselves, we're preparing ourselves to wear our fancy clothing, to dress nicely in honor of Shabbos. And that is totally true. Totally true on the simple level. Rabbi Nachman's telling us, but there's another kavanah to have. There's something else going on. That is, when you wash yourself in hot water on Shabbos, you should have in mind that this heat of the hot water, my intention is, my kavanah is, that the negative forces that want to draw on this holy power of Shabbos are going to be burned down from the heat of the water that I'm bathing myself in. So not only am I cleaning myself up to honor the Shabbos, but the heat of that water is there to totally wipe out the negative forces which want to come and usurp the tremendously holy power of Shabbos. Right? So I remember when I first learned this Torah, I had that in mind for a little while, and then I forgot about it. But now I'm going to remember it again and be back on. But once again, it's in that time of Shabbos. Now, I'm going to say something here. He doesn't say this here, but I'm thinking about it. I could be wrong, but I think it makes sense over here. Also, when you ladies are lighting your candles, right in that time, when it's talking about that this fire comes and knocks out all the negative forces, you're lighting your candles. You're literally lighting a fire at that time. Could very well be that mitzvah also is accomplishing the same thing. Right? Totally amazing. Are you ladies as blown away by this as I am? The power that you have? Is this just me? This mamish is blowing my mind. That you guys are literally changing space and time from mundane to holy with the mitzvah that you do. It's totally amazing. Okay. Anyway, I won't dwell on it. Kamavoyer b'kavanos, like is this, by the way, this concept of washing is written by the Arizal in his holy Kabbalistic kavanos, intentions. V'zeo b'china now. This is what we're talking about. Shetzrichim lavar hatoiv sheb'targum. Because what do we have to do? We have to clarify and elevate the good that is found within the middle ground, the Targum. Shebechinas noiga, which is noiga. Nichla b'lashon kodesh, that it should become part of the holiness, part of the lashon kodesh. Ushar l'shoynes ha'akum, and then the yucky stuff, the evil side, the other 70 languages, shebechinas ra gomer, which are totally evil. Tzrichim lahapilam ulevatlam legamre. We have to knock them down and wipe them out completely. Erev Shabbos. So this is what we're doing. We're bringing a portion of the week into Shabbos, elevating it to a holy status, taking the good and bringing it into the holy, and the rest of it, we're washing off in our hot water. We're knocking them down with the flames of our hot water, maybe with the candles. I'm not sure, but it's something I was thinking about. Right? So this is what we do. This is the amazing nature of Friday afternoon, and it's exactly what we're talking about through everything we've been discussing. The concept of taking from the mundane, finding the holy part of it, and bringing that up into the holiness. As we said before, there's certain souls in the non-Jewish world that are that good that needs to be elevated and needs to convert and become part of the Jewish people and go from that place of the 70 nations into being holy. But then there's other souls that are not able to do that. And they're from the rest of the 70 nations. But our job in everything that we do, once again, every part of our lives, is that we're always trying to find the good wherever we are and lift it up and elevate it. Right? Okay. V'zehu kasher dibarta lemor. So this is also what it means. Sorry. V'zeh ve'ata yigdal na koyach Hashem. No. Did we do this one already? 1 second. Sorry. We're on letter Vav now. Okay, we'll do letter Vav. Then we'll finish by letter Zayin. Ukeshamale hatoiv shebetargum. And when we raise up the good that is found in the Targum, in the middle ground, umashlim es lashon hakodesh, and we perfect and complete holy speech. Shaboy nivra ha'olam. Let's bring another thing into the realm over here. What's lashon hakodesh? What else did lashon hakodesh accomplish? The entire world was created with lashon hakodesh. That means that everything in existence is made up of the holy Hebrew letters somehow. There's like a source code. There's a DNA of existence that is written in the Hebrew language. So when we perfect and complete this aspect of Lashon Kodesh and holy speech, we cause an awakening and an arousal of that source code, Hebrew letter, DNA of existence to awaken and to be aroused in everything that surrounds us, in everything that we find ourselves surrounded by. Because everything in the world has different combinations of letters that they could be made up of. Sheboy nivra es hadavar, that this thing was created with. Vayedeh shleimus lashon hakodesh, and through the perfection of lashon kodesh, ayedeh lashon targum, through bringing up the good that's within the targum, ayedeh zeh nisorin v'nisgadlin hakoyach shel elu ha'osyes, we cause to be aroused and we cause the power of these letters to grow. Sheish b'chol davar that exists in everything, every individual thing. Tzirufei osyes, right? The combinations of letters. One that just comes to mind to think about, right? Just something to have a little bit of an intuition into this. We don't really know what we're talking about here. And we don't see, the matrix green letters behind everything in existence, if you know what I'm talking about. But, sometimes our behavior and the way that we talk can create enemies for us. Right? And can create really, really bad negative relationships. The way that we use our speech. So, what's the Hebrew word for bad, evil? Is ra. Resh ayin, right? So, sometimes if we speak that way that the letters of something that's happening in our lives can spell out resh ayin with a patach vowel underneath it, ra, evil. But if we're able to refine ourselves and to perfect our speech and to be able to communicate with people and exist on a very high level of malchus peh, and a very high level of revealing what's in my intellect to the rest of the world, and very high level of connection with people, the same letters can also spell the word rea, which means friend. Ra, it can go from ra, evil, to rea, friend. Right? It's one way we can see the letters. Another thing is there's a word for, there's a word called nega. Nega, nun gimel ayin, which means an affliction, a skin affliction. It can also mean a disease, right? But it means a bad, negative physical experience. A bad, negative physical experience. You with me? So, sometimes the way that we use our holy speech, we can use it in a negative way, and we can be mean to people, we can yell at people, we can say profane things. And what can that do to Shabbos? Sitting around a Shabbos table, imagine, and you start degrading a person with your speech, or talking about other people, just speaking lashon hara, gossiping, bringing all this kind of spiritual negativity into Shabbos, right? That Shabbos Suda can be so uncomfortable, and the whole situation can be so spiritually damaging that it's an affliction, right? But you know what else those letters make up? If your speech is powerful and holy, and people sitting with you at a Shabbos table are discussing beautiful, holy ideas, are thankful for each other, are expressing good wishes to each other, talking about holy things, you know what that turns into? Oineg. Nega turns into oineg. Oineg means the pleasure, physical pleasures of Shabbos, the pleasurable nature of Shabbos. Nega can turn to oineg. Just, the concept we're talking about is way, 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 way deeper than this. But on a very surface level, this is a way that we can see that the Hebrew letters, when there's tzirufei oisios, that means the combinations of the letters, they can be wrong, and they can be in such a state that things are just not going right. Things are not good. Because they tzirufei oisios, that means that the letters are not the way they're supposed to be. And so they're coming out in a negative way. And what we're saying over here is by behaving in this way with Shleimus Lashon HaKodesh, we can rewrite the story of our lives. We can rewrite the creation as it's unfolding in the way that it's supposed to be. Hear how powerful this is? This is a theme that Rabbi Nachman speaks about in a number of different places. And it's one of the things that blows my mind to the greatest extent. Everything we do is like our lives are a story being written. Hashem's writing the story of our lives every moment. And with Hebrew letters, Hashem is writing our story. And we have a part to play in determining how that story is written and how those letters are put together in different combinations. Can you believe that? It's totally, totally wild and amazing. So this is what David HaMelech says. No, not David HaMelech. This is what is said over here in Devarim. And now, I pray, I guess this is Moshe Rabbeinu maybe? I pray, let the power of Hashem be raised up, be enhanced, as you have spoken, saying, Ka'asher dibarta lemor, as you have spoken, saying. What does that mean? Lemor, to speak, mean da gilui arayos. Lemor refers to immoral sexual offenses. Like Chazal say, Hainu, Bechinas HaMadura shel Shivim Kechavim, which is this bonfire of the 70 nations. Shu Bechinas Taivas Niyuf, which is this all-encompassing evil of lust. Shenis Bata al Yadei HaDibur, how does it get lowered down? Through the Dibur, the speech of Lashon HaKodesh. V'zeu kasher dibart lemor. And this is what the pasuk means. Like you said, like you spoke, saying. Hainu kafi hadibur shel Lashon HaKodesh, according to the level of your speech, of your holy speech, shal yadoi, that through it, ne'esar arayos, v'nisbatal taivas niyov. That's how lustful behavior is going to be, sexual offenses are going to be reined in, and the desire for lust is going to be cut off. Kamoikein yigdal koyach Hashem. The extent to which you can do that, Yigdal Koyach Hashem, the power of Hashem is going to grow. So it's not just that I'm able to remove lust from my existence, that I'm able to remove my negative speech, and by doing that, I take away a negative force. Not only that, when I do that, it also arouses the Koyach of Hashem, and arouses the power of the letters of creation. It wakes them up, right? Yeah, we said that already. To the extent to which someone perfects the holy speech, which is going to cut off, break, and destroy taivas niyuf, the desire for adultery, lust, illicit relations. Kein nisgadal v'nisorer koyach Hashem. So too will the power of Hashem in creation will be awakened and will be enhanced and will lift up. Which are the letters that are there in the creation, constant, continuing creation of everything in the world. So what are we seeing over here? So many things. But this last point is that we shouldn't even just think, like I'm trying to make a sale here. You know how I say how sometimes when people are speaking, people will criticize them by saying, oh, no, don't listen to that person. They have an agenda, right? I always like to say, I always have an agenda. I for sure have an agenda, right? I think most people do, and they probably shouldn't be embarrassed about their agenda. But I have an agenda, and that's that I want us all to have a tremendous desire and longing to accomplish what Rabbi Nachman is talking about. I want us all to hear his advice and to implement it. And to say, Rabbi Nachman, you're my teacher, you're my Rebbe, I know you give good advice, I want to follow your advice. Right? So what's the selling point at the end over here? It's not just that I'm removing something negative. Right? I have a mashal in my mind right now. Not just that I'm removing something negative, and when I take away all that negative speech, and all the profanity, and all the judginess, judgment, lashon hara, right? Gossip, like degradation, verbal abuse. It's not just when I take that away, things feel better. They do. That's very positive. It's a very big step. But it's what happens after that it gives the opportunity for the power of holiness to be aroused and awakened in everything that's surrounding us. And to bring a positive dose of goodness into the world, right? So, everybody knows here that I am involved in wine production, right? So if we have some vineyards, and I like to go out and be involved in some of the farming if I can, and work the land and understand how it all works. It's something I enjoy. So you can have a place. We bought one time a vineyard, and this vineyard was neglected for a very long time. And what happened was an investment group from China bought this land, and then they started planting some new vines in there, but then they didn't want to spend any more money, so they left it. So we bought this property, and our plan was to reinvigorate it, get it back up to where it should be. So what did we see over there? We saw these little tiny grapevines that were maybe, a foot, 18 inches tall. And they're surrounded by weeds. And they're not looking good. So we were thinking, these vines must have been planted like last year, because they're like about a foot tall. And they just let the weeds grow. So now we got to get rid of the weeds. So we found out that those vines had been planted more than 3 years previously. And by that time, the vine should already be up tall on the trellis producing fruit after 3 years, right? And we were like, wow. So what happened? The weeds were so powerful, and there was such a competition, the weeds are taking all the nutrients, right? So even though those vines were sitting there for 3 years, they barely grew more than a 1 year vine, right? So what did we do? We went to work and got rid of all those weeds, cultivated the ground, put some, organic matter into the soil to feed it. So now what happens? It's not just that we look now and it looks nice because there's no more weeds there. It does. It looks nicer and there's no more weeds. But now what happens? Now those vines are shooting up. And they're growing, and very soon they're going to be all the way up on the trellis, and they're going to be producing fruit, right? So too, we might think that all we want to accomplish is to remove the negative influence of this type of speech in our lives, and it's great. It is great, but wait to see what happens when you remove that negative speech and you allow holiness to sprout out from there. You allow vineyards of holiness and Kedusha to sprout out from that place. This is what can happen, and that he's saying over here. So we'll hold it here now, and because we're right at letter Zayin, perfect place to stop. And we're going to get into some more amazing stuff. Next week we're going to begin to discuss how this relates to the concept of the food that we eat and the liquids that we drink, and how, based on the way that we act and the way that we use our speech, the letters and combinations that make up our food and the tikkunim that we can make through those are going to be affected. It's going to be a whole, holistic, cosmic event here when we work on holy speech and we raise ourselves up like this. Yirz Hashem, we should all continue and remember that we want to take Rabbi Nachman's advice and put it into practice, and not just have fun together and say good Torahs together, but to mamish work on our holy speech. Let's avoid lashon hara. Let's avoid negativity. Let's avoid bittul. Let's avoid talking about TV shows and all this garbage. Let's try to use our voices and our speech for holy things. Mitzvah Hashem, we'll see progress every week.